it's not always about how much you can do, but it's what you can recover from, right? Just the same analogy with, if you're talking about, business or parenting or whatever, you got to be able to pour from a full cup. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? So that's really kind of the philosophy that we're going at, is that you can put in so much effort, but in order to be able to put in that effort, whether it be in the weight room, in the boardroom, at home being a parent, you have to be able to make sure that you have the things needed to be able to perform at the most optimal level.
Hey everyone, this is Aaron and Juwan, and you're listening to Wellness for Real People. This show is for people who are on the go, busy, and looking for ways to live their best lives. We focus on wellness topics in mindfulness, exercise, diet, and sleep, and share quick actionable tactics to improve your health and wellness. We're not perfect, but we're trying to get a little better each day. Let's grow on this journey together.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Wellness for Real People. My name is Juwan, here with my co-host Aaron, and today we have a very special guest, none other than the Joe Todd, co-owner of Spartan Strength Systems. Glad to have you here. Thanks for taking time to share with us today. I'm really excited for you to share your experiences and knowledge and wisdom with our audience. And today we're really going to focus on, the importance of recovery. So you work specifically with really high-level athletes, helping them to achieve their goals and achieve some amazing things. So I'm excited to hear you talk a little bit about that. But I think, from one of our conversations, offline, we just started talking about the importance of, recovery and how important that is to being able to perform at your best, whether you're an athlete, or just, everybody, right? Whether you're a parent, professional, we all have very, very busy lives and lots of demands on our time and energy. And so I think the importance of recovery is really applicable for all of us. And so really excited to get into it. So, I'm not a big fan of doing, big, long, drawn out introductions, and I couldn't possibly share all of your accolades and do it justice anyways, because you just accomplished, and achieved so much in such a short time. But give folks just a little bit of background for those who don't know you, around just kind of what's the work you're doing today and how you got here, on this journey.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me, Juwan and Aaron. My name is Joe Todd, like you mentioned. My wife, Samantha, and I, we own Spartan Strength Systems down in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So we're really more of a strength and performance facility. A lot of times people just kind of, group gyms all in one bucket. But, as you mentioned, Juwan, we work with a lot of specifically athletes, strength athletes in this case, a lot of power lifters, starting to push more into strongman, and really people kind of in between, with strength being really the glue that kind of holds all our members together in different assets or aspects of that. So kind of coming up to this point, I've had stints in just general personal training, work with general population. I had a pretty big stint in tactical strength and conditioning, where I was working with the U.S. Army and working, to kind of get their troops up to speed and at a physical place and prevent injuries there. But then meanwhile, really kind of working on where we're at, today with getting Spartan Strength Systems up and rolling. So that's where we're at today. We're helping a lot of athletes and just continuing to grow and expand and really putting strength sports for Colorado Springs on the map.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I guess, a big question I like to always ask folks is, what are you most excited or passionate about these days? Like, what really motivates you and drives you? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think honestly, just the climate of, fitness and health and where we're at these days, is a very interesting time, we can all see, how much technology is really taking over with things. And I think the model that, the fitness and the health industry, especially for professionals, in the same spot as me, used to be in, was much more of this, one-on-one. I'm going to train you for this particular amount of time, or maybe I'm training one-on-one with groups. But now we're getting to a place where, people work remote. Everyone's got their programs right on their phone, and being able to tap in and access so much information almost simultaneously. You've got YouTube and Instagram and all these different places. So I think the thing that's exciting for me, in this sense, is really being able to help coach and be a resource for these, autonomous athletes, these athletes that are really, for the most part, they're working at their own pace. Sometimes, I've got athletes that come in earlier in the morning or later at night, or, in different cities, different states, that we're working with, and being able to be a resource for all those different people at all those different times with all the individual goals that they have, and being able to leverage things like, technology, and trying to work smarter, not harder. So it's been a different, space to try and operate in now, but it's made it interesting, and really being able to try and tap into some of this passion, and just try and find new and creative ways to be a resource for people on their fitness journeys.
Well, that's awesome, man. And, I think about, like you mentioned, just how things have changed, the evolution of technology and so many industries, but specifically in your industry. And like you said, the information is everywhere, right? And there's a lot of free information out there. And it's hard to decipher, what's quality information from just trash, right? That, that's going to actually be harmful for you. And I think that's why the work you do is so really important, to be a trusted source of truth and verified information. You do your research, you've done your homework, you've studied this for years, right? And I think it's really, really important, because if you're not careful, you can get off track really, really fast and really hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think while you can do a lot of this stuff on your own, I think it's also really, really important for those who want it and need it, to be able to get that expert advice and support, so they can perform at their best. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So I guess let's get into it, man. We want to talk about the recovery. So tell me a little bit more about why you think recovery is so important, in our lives, and why it's an important topic of conversation that, you're having with the folks that you serve, and the athletes that you help.
Absolutely. Recovery to me, in the general sense, is very important, but it's specifically when I'm getting into dealing with, this athletic population, and, especially being in sports where really the name of the game is pushing the envelope, doing better than you did the last competition, or than, you did the last lift in the gym. And, you're dealing with individuals that are highly motivated. They're very ambitious. They want to really push the envelope, and a, big kind of, philosophy that I constantly come back to with these guys. It's what you can recover from, right? Just the same analogy with, if you're talking about, business or parenting or whatever, you got to be able to pour from a full cup. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? So that's really kind of the philosophy that we're going at, is that you can put in so much effort, but in order to be able to put in that effort, whether it be in the weight room, in the boardroom, at home being a parent, you have to be able to make sure that you have the things needed to be able to perform at the most optimal level. And that's really where recovery comes in. So, for recovery, on the training side, we focus on things as far as nutrition, hydration, sleep, not only just the duration, but, the quality of that sleep, and making sure that your body is in a state to where it can repair the damage that's being done. It can kind of keep up with how you're trying to train it. So that way, when you step into the gym, or into your next training session, you are ready to go. You're not still kind of lagging behind, and not completely recovered, and not able to give it your best effort. So from an athletic sense, it's something that is very, very important. There's been so much more research done nowadays about how to properly recover and how to properly fuel it and get your body back online. But, I think it's awesome being able to talk on a platform like this of, I don't want to say regular people, because, my regular people are athletes as well, but, looking other contexts outside of just athletic performance, and say, how can recovery help me to, give better presentations in the boardroom, or to be able to sell more at work, or to be able to just be a more effective parent. And I think all those same things that we're really trying to do is optimize the body, to be able to regenerate and repair itself, and, keep you at tip top performance. That's really comes down to, we're really doing the same thing, just different sides of the coin, because the body's going to be responsible for all those things.
No, that's great. I want to dive into those a little a little bit of each of those elements that you mentioned, because like you said, it's all transferable, whether you're an athlete or whether you've hung up your athletic cleats and you're going about your professional life, or like you said, as a parent. And so, you mentioned some key things that are important to recovery, specifically starting with sleep. Let's start there. We can start with sleep, then we'll get into nutrition, and we get into diet. Let's talk a little bit about sleep. You mentioned the quantity and the quality. What are a few things that you tell folks around, getting optimal sleep?
Right. I feel like in today's, climate is so difficult really trying to push the sleep side of things, because there's always something to do, and we go and go and go and got to get up early and stay up late and hit the caffeine so that way I can work longer and harder and all those kinds of things. So when you start talking about sleep, most people are like, oh, yeah, whatever. I sleep when I can and I get up and do it all over again. But really, sleep is that period of time where your body is able to recharge, regenerate, depending on what you're doing on the day to day, specifically the athletes that I'm working with, they're literally just breaking their bodies down through a lot of this hard training. And it becomes imperative to be able to have time to repair and regenerate and let those muscles in your nervous system be able to recharge, so that way you can go and do it all over again. And really that gets into not just the duration of your sleep, that's going to take a certain amount of time. Most people are recommending 6 to 8 hours a night, which most people know that. But it's really getting into the quality of your sleep. How much of that REM sleep are you getting into? And a lot of those things can be affected. And we talked about this some offline, but with really just what are your habits? What are your nighttime habits? Are you, in bed right before, you're getting ready to fall asleep and on TikTok or Instagram or watching TV or whatever it is, the blue light, all these kinds of things can really affect the quality of your sleep. Really, we want to be able to get to a place to where, we can relax, the room is cool. Like, we're setting all these things in place to really just be able to optimize it's time for sleep. And sleep is a serious thing, not just, the sum total of what I have left at the end of the day to where I can try and shut it down for a little bit and then bounce back, but really prioritizing and being intentional on, if I need this specific window to be able to rest and recharge so I can get up the next day and, hit it hard, whether that be, like we talked about from the athletic side or business, parenting, whatever, you put whatever name on it, making sure that we're intentional and that we're completely charged. Most people, especially nowadays, no one's going to go anywhere without their cell phone. And 99% of people, especially at night, you're charging that phone. Why? Because when I get up in the morning, I'm ripping and running. I'm checking social media. I got calls to make. I got texts. I cannot have this thing peter out on me midday, right? Or I'll have to charge it or whatever. Your body's the same way, except for most of us don't really plug into a charger, in the car or at any point during the day to recharge. So you really have that window at night to try and optimize as much as you can and make sure that, your all systems go in the morning.
Oh, that's awesome. That's brilliant. Aaron, any thoughts there?
Yeah, no, man, it's like you hit on so many points about quality of sleep. It's something that I think my wife has helped me out a lot with, because I was like, I'll just sleep when I can. I'm hustling. I'm trying to grind it out. I'm doing all I can. She's like, no, you need to relax. And one of the other things we did too was like investing in a better mattress too, to help that sleep quality. Cause we just it was garbage. Like, we had a junk mattress that I've had for years. And I saw that shift once we finally got a good mattress where I was actually getting quality sleep and feeling more rested and staying asleep longer. Cause it's like, in the other one, I was waking up throughout the night because I was uncomfortable and doing all this other stuff. But it's crazy, man. The sleep thing is so important now, because when you're a parent, you got, your kids got way more energy than I have most of the time. Like, she's all over the butt, so you got that, plus you got the business side, plus you're trying to take care of yourself. And I think that was one major component that stood out too. And then I think you mentioned one more I want you to dive into around hydration, because that's something that we haven't really talked about much on the show. We talked about sleep and diet and things, but definitely want to dive into hydration as well.
Kind of starting to cut out a little bit.
Oh, you still there, Joe?
Second. Yeah, as far as the hydration, that's another critical piece as well. I mean, the body is, over 70% water. So all these different, functions and processes that your body, you know, just does on a daily basis without you even thinking about it, regulating blood pressure and digestion and all these kinds of things. Your fluid retention and your hydration levels, they all play a huge part in that, right? So, when we think about during the day, just we talked about, with the sleep, a lot of times you don't really think that much about it. It's the same thing with hydration. People will get up in the morning. Maybe I haven't had the greatest night of rest, but I got to get up going. I've got to get to work. I got a meeting I got to get to. So I'm going to hit some coffee, get some caffeine in my system, wake up a little bit. But caffeine is also a diuretic. And so it's going to dehydrate you even further.
Yeah,
And if
and that's
you've
how it
gotten
started
up
the
in that
day.
morning, you haven't had any water yet, you're on to, coffee, and you're getting your day rolling, and maybe you're at work and you go into a meeting. Oh, okay, great. They've got water bottles for people, but they're the little itty bitty water bottles that it's like one shot and you're done.
Yeah,
Like most people throughout the day are not adequately addressing their hydration. And there's serious kind of performance drop-offs that come with that as far as your focus, your attention. When you start talking from the athletic side of things, your power output. So especially with me working with strength athletes, and it's not as hot in Colorado as maybe in some other places. But if we're training, we're outside, or maybe you're not in somewhere that has air conditioning. I've got people that train in their garage or whatever the case may be, and you're sweating and you're losing fluid and you're losing electrolytes. That is really starting to inhibit your performance. We could see performance in with some of these athletes that we're working, on the bar or throughout the course of that workout, that we're leaving on the table really just based around proper hydration. And again, you take the other analogy, even if it's not in the gym, you're trying to run a business, you've got meetings, you've got calls. What happens when you hit that point at, a little bit after 12, it's early afternoon, and you're crashing hard? You know what I mean? Like you don't have any focus, everything is foggy. And how can you expect to be at your best, to be the most efficient and productive, if you can't hold it together, right? And something just as small as hydration can be playing a part in that, right? So, some of the things that, we were talking a little bit on sleep too, and, just kind of starting to dabble into now, but really where a lot of this comes in, and same thing with nutrition, we can dive into that too, but a lot of it comes down to your habits, right? And this is what Juan had talked about earlier. There's so much information, just a plethora of information out there. How much of it is right? How much of it is wrong? A lot of times now, a lot of this information is most of the time pretty correct, right? But you get the same information and people saying it in different ways. So how do I decipher? How do I condense all this information into something that will make sense for me? And to me, it comes down to your habits. What does your nighttime routine look like? Do you, for the hydration, do you have a water bottle that you keep with you that you can refill throughout the day? How big is it? If it's an 8-ounce water bottle, it's better than nothing. But once that's empty, now what's the process? We're going to have to refill it. So, especially with the athletes, you'll see a lot of, my guys and girls walk around the gym with these big, gallon jugs or half-gallon jugs and all these things. And it seems excessive, but when you look at that over the course of the day, and it's like, hey, making sure that I'm adequately hydrated is just going to make sure that I can perform better at the gym and outside of the gym, because 99% of all the clients that I even work with that, we're considering athletes, they all have day jobs, so their hydration is not only just for their workout. A lot of them train after work. They put in their 8 to 5, 9 to 5, and then they're coming after that. So what happens that whole point, through there? If they're in that habit of consistently drinking water, having something set aside to where they can stay up on that particular habit, they're going to be better not only in the gym, but throughout the rest of their day as well. Same thing, with sleep, your sleep routines or whatever.
Great. No, that's So important, man. And then, I was reading an article the other day, and it was talking about, we might actually talked about it on this show. One of the things, it's all interrelated, right? All of these things, they're all connected. And, a lot of times, if you're feeling hungry, the natural thing to do is to grab and go for a snack or something, right? Sometimes in the middle of the day if we're between meals, but sometimes, that trigger for being hungry actually is you're thirsty, right? So the
Yes.
advice was like, drink some water first, right? Before you just start grabbing snacks, because your body might actually be telling you that you're dehydrated and it needs, more fluid, rather than you actually need to be eating, which kind of I want to transition into real quickly. I know we can dive into this. I know how critically important this is for sports performance, but also life performance. But we could do a whole episode just on nutrition. But
Right.
what are a few things that people get wrong about nutrition, and what are just some very simple habits that we can maybe think about adopting in our daily lives to improve our nutrition so we can perform at our best?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I see and I continue to see is really, it's really in the perspective. The term diet nowadays has just brought on a whole different connotation of what that actually means. When you hear diet from someone, you think sacrifice and restriction, and I can't eat this and I can't go here. That's what everybody thinks. That term diet is very, especially when you're starting to talk about athletic circles or people's, tying it to losing weight or, weight loss, those kinds of things. Diet is now directly tied with those things. So, if you're working out or exercising or doing anything like that, you're going to have to sacrifice and you're going to have to restrict and you're going to have to hold back. And I think in theory, a lot of people can, get behind that. But when the rubber hits the road and you're constantly telling yourself, no, I can't have this, no, I can't have that, it's a hard habit to sustain, right? And the biggest shift that I tell most people is that get the diet out of your head and restricting and not being able to have this, that, and the other. You need to be able to fuel for the activity or the outcome that you're looking for, right? So if I have an athlete that wants to be able to, lift said weight at, their competition, or they need to gain weight or lose weight or whatever the outcome happens to be, we fuel accordingly, right? If you need to be able to lift these weights, I'm less concerned about whether your body weight is going up or down or whatever. If this is what you want to do, this is how you have to fuel to get to this place. Or if you want to be able to lose weight, this is how you fuel that based on your energy and your activity levels throughout the day and so on and so forth. It's not about restriction. It's about proper fueling, right? If you're just driving, in a just decent car, Ford Focus, whatever, and you're just going to and from work, maybe the grocery store, E85 is probably just fine. But if you're in a souped up race car and you're, trying to hit your quarter mile in X amount of time, you're probably going to need a little bit different kind of fuel to get you from point A to point B. And nutrition is the exact same way for really everybody. The requirements and the goal or the outcome is going to dictate what that fuel looks like, right? So if your outcome is to, hey, midway through the afternoon, I still want to be sharp, I want to be alert, I've got meetings, I've got business brainstorming sessions, whatever it may be, your fuel is critical. So when you go out for lunch or you have your lunch right before that stop, what are you eating? Is it going to make sure that your blood sugar doesn't crash? Are you going to be foggy? Or are you going to be, too tired because of all the fat and carbs and all these kinds of things that you ate right before lunch? Well, your outcome should dictate, what are you going to eat? Maybe I eat something like this, so that way I have enough energy to go here and so on and so forth. So that's what I really think that the most critical piece to that is figuring out what's the outcome, what's the goal, what do you want to be able to do, and you eat accordingly. All the gluten-free and carbs and fats, and there's not really anything good or bad. It's all, it is what it is. Certain macronutrients, certain foods will have different responses for your body. If I've got an athlete coming into a very, heavy or a long training session, they're probably going to need a pretty large amount of carbs that we're going to place in throughout the day. They may have some more carbs in the middle of their workout, but if they're not training that day, maybe we're not taking in so many carbs because the energy demand isn't there, right? And so a lot of what it's going to come down to is it's not sacrifice, and it's not just constantly pulling back, trying to go for a specific diet. It's you give your body what it needs in order to be successful, whatever you've deemed, that outcome of success is, if that makes sense. I know that was kind of like a, long roundabout answer to your question, but I really think that it just comes down to that bit of perspective of fueling rather than just diet and restricting and taking away to try and get to that same place.
No, I think it's great. Brilliant. Thanks for sharing. I never thought of it that kind of way, but it makes complete sense, right?
Yeah, it's a nice shift. Yeah, just to think about what's the outcome versus just like the restriction. Because whenever I'm in my mode, I'm working at home, so I'm like, oh, I need to restrict things because I need to lose weight because I'm like, I sit at a desk or whatever. But it's more so, like you said, what's the outcome that you're trying to achieve? And then like there's days where I do have a ton of stuff going on, and I feel like I can't get like focused or get through it. I've had days where I had to take a nap because I maybe didn't start my day off right. I didn't have the right energy. I started working. I didn't eat a good breakfast. And, then I'm like,
Right.
at 1 o'clock, I'm like, oh man, I need a quick nap, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The fuel
And I
and the
think a
outcome,
lot
I
of
like that.
those, yeah, and I think a lot of those things, just like how we were talking about before, is going to come down consistently to habits. Because if you're constantly trying to manage all these different variables all day long, oh, did I get enough to drink? And what time did I get to bed? And I, did I get my next meal in? It almost becomes neurotic. Like you have to get to this point of looking at your individual life and saying, hey, this is what works. When I have meetings coming up here, and yes, I need to focus on, proper fueling and nutrition, but maybe I can't sit down and eat, a meal that I need with a knife and fork if I'm sitting here in this business meeting, right? I need to focus on what I'm doing and be present with that. But before, can I, maybe grab, some nuts or a little bit of fruit or something like that before the meeting, or, strategically placing things that work best in your life, right? Like we talk about how important sleep is. If you have a newborn, good luck. Everything I just said now no longer applies, right? Like you're going to have to get what you can get. But understanding that all these things do play a factor in performance, whether it be athletic performance in the boardroom, or just, generally being, the best version of yourself that you can be. All those things are going to come into play. So making sure that you have some kind of a game plan, a strategy to keep things simple, but keep things consistent. Because really with a lot of these things, you can get one amazing night of sleep. That is not going to carry you over through the whole week. It's a daily occurrence. You can have, one great day where, I ate perfectly. I fueled my body for just what it needed. I'm on top of hydration. But then if the next 3 days are, less than ideal, that all changes. So really what we're talking about is this daily habits, daily consistency, that compounding interest of I'm doing these small things day in, day out that are really adding to, my whole down the road, right? That delayed gratification of I'm just pouring into the process. I know that these things are good. I'm just going to keep a water bottle on my desk, 32, 64 ounces. I'm not going to drink it all in one shot, but it keeps me accountable for staying hydrated throughout the day. And instead of being like, oh, I ran out of water, I got this meeting coming up, I don't have time, it's already there. It's already covered, right? If I got my, bedtime routine, if I got the, kids, okay, hey, at this time, we're going to wind down, we're going to read a book, and then I brush my teeth, and then I shower, and then I maybe do a little light reading in bed, and then I'm sleepy, and then I go to sleep, right? Just these things that what's your normal routine, that's what's going to really set you up for success. So it's not this big crash thing and you always have to be managing all these different variables, but it's figuring out for your life what's the right recipe, tinkering that a little bit over time, but the consistency is the biggest thing.
Brilliant. I don't I don't know there's any more we can add to that. I think you just, capped it off really, really well in terms of, this big topic around recovery and how important that is, specifically for the athletes that you train, but also just in our everyday lives, right? To perform at our best for all the responsibilities that we have. And, we talked about the importance of sleep, right? And we talked about the importance of hydration and diet and nutrition. And all these things are really, really important. But I think I love the way you ended it with the importance of just developing healthy habits, right? And doing these small things consistently over time will make the biggest difference. It's not about going 0 to 100 and changing everything overnight, but it's about what are these small things that we can do that, over time we learn work best for us in our unique situations, and then just consistently doing them over and over and over again. So I want to thank you for sharing these powerful insights with us. And before we let you go, just want to give an opportunity for you to share how folks can get in touch with you if they want to work with you in your business.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, just now with all the technology and everything available, that's really just been able to broaden our scope. So as I mentioned, we do have the physical gym and location down in Colorado Springs, Spartan Strength Systems. If you guys are down in the Springs looking to get in a great workout or training session, come check us out. You can also check us out online, where we've got access to the different services that we offer, whether it be programs, private coaching, memberships for the gym. You can check us out at spartanbarbell.net. You can check us out on Instagram, Spartan Strength Systems, and just be able to really tap into us wherever you're at. So that way we can really just help you and be a resource on your fitness journey.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you again for joining us. And we'll be back soon with another episode of Wellness for Real People. Take care.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Joe.